Being stuck in a relationship that isn't serving you is the number one way to hold yourself back in every single area of your life. How do I know this to be true? Well, I've had my own big experience with staying in a relationship way past its expiry date. And I saw how debilitating it was to every single part of me and my life. And it created such a huge need for reset, recalibration. And ultimately, yes, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But knowing what I know now on this episode, I want to share the ways in which you can tell that it is time to walk away from the relationship. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, or you're in a dating situationship, this doesn't necessarily need to apply to a man and a relationship. This can be you need to walk away from a job, or you're in a chapter in your life right now where you know that life is asking for you to make some changes and there is something more out there for you, or it can even be with friends. And I just want to rewind back to my breakup. That I know that I've spoken about this a lot already before on the podcast, but really when you're in this experience where there is so much toxicity and it is exhausting, and as I shared before, so debilitating to your nervous system and to your life force energy and ultimately how you feel about yourself, being in those experiences really does shake you up and wake you up. And they can seem like you're in the darkest of periods and you don't know what to do, and life feels a little bit hopeless and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there is a saying out there that you think that you are being buried, but in actual fact, you're being planted. And this is so, so true. When you're in these big, wild experiences, they force you to start looking at yourself and life differently. And I want to share that I would only know this information that I'm gifting you on this podcast today because of that relationship. Had it not been for that breakup and that pain, I wouldn't be able to share this information with you. And I was in a real big push and pull dynamic for so long with this man. And I couldn't walk away. I couldn't see the things that I see now off the back of moving away from him and leaving him and really, really redefining myself and rediscovering myself off the back of that pain. I was in this push and pull dynamic where I was constantly, one minute I was feeling like I was feeling secure with him and everything was going okay. And then a few days later, it would be back to toxicity, drama, fear, pain, projection, both sides. And it was just this constant going back in, leaning a little bit out, going back in, leaning a little bit out. And my attachment to him and most importantly, I just want to put on the table, the chaos that I was attached to was so familiar to me because of the way I was brought up, because a healthy relationship wasn't something that my body had ever experienced before in a way in which I could actually model it. So of course, a chaotic, turbulent, dramatic relationship, even though on the conscious level, my logical mind knew, oh no, like this isn't good. This isn't how relationships are supposed to be. I mean, I know they're not supposed to be perfect, but they're definitely not supposed to be this chaotic. So my mind could see it, but my body was just like, I'll just go back in for more. I'll just go back in for more. And it was just this constant cycle. And back then I couldn't see the red flags, not necessarily his red flags, though there was a few of them. The red flags of how I was showing up, and also the red flags just on the relationship in general. That's what I want to give you on this episode today, because I know that so many women find themselves stuck in these cycles and this repetitive fear and confusion and frustration with men, and also in other parts of your life. I know that more recently for me, I've had quite an entanglement and quite a confusing experience with a friend of mine who I just can't seem to connect to. And I really see myself trying, but ultimately I also see my defense mechanism come up with her. I see my protector come online where I start assessing things that she said. I start questioning how she is thinking about me. I keep looking at the things that she does, and I'm wondering like, oh, why is that giving me some even a small bit of trigger? And I'm constantly in this state of like assessing. And I had to really just sit with myself and ask myself, and I also shared with a couple of my friends around this of like, I just don't understand it. Like there is a part of me that just doesn't trust her and it. And I sat with it and I was like, maybe Anna, she just doesn't align with where you're at. She doesn't align with your values. The relationship doesn't meet my standards, and that's okay. I get to have my standards. That's just the way it is. And it's time to walk away rather than putting energy in, trying to figure it out, trying to make it work. Instead, I leave that friendship and that interaction every single time I'm with her. I leave more confused, more frustrated, a little bit triggered, questioning myself, wondering why am I giving so much energy to something and someone and I don't feel it coming back. And that's what I'm going to get into in one of the things of how to know when it's time to walk away. So the number one thing, and this applies very much to relationships. So again, even if you're not in a relationship or you're not dating at the moment, if you see yourself doing this in any capacity with anyone, it's time to walk away. And just for clarity, when I say walk away, it doesn't necessarily mean completely shut the door, though in some instances it might absolutely be to completely cut that person from your life. But walking away can also be like, I'm walking away from the energy of this relationship. I'm walking away from interactions. I'm walking away from constantly putting myself in the arena, in the dojo of the one that's constantly putting myself forward, making an effort. The number one is if you see that you are having to defend yourself, then it's time to walk away. Why? Because no one should have to constantly be trying to convince someone and defend your word, your opinion, what you did, how you did it, who you are. Like, that is just not up for negotiation. You shouldn't have to defend who you are to someone. And if you are having to constantly defend, then there is a telltale sign that there is a dynamic between the two of you that is incongruent. Something's not working. If it feels catty, if it feels bitey, if it feels like an undercurrent of passive aggressive energy, and you're constantly feeling like you have to share something in a certain way, or you have to say something, or you have to fight for yourself, then your nervous system fundamentally is going into a survival-based response. So you're going to go into fight, or you're going to go into freeze, or you're going to go into flight, or you're going to appease, fawn. So if you can sense that you are getting passive aggressive, or you're even in full-blown arguments, like you're in your fight energy, trying to defend yourself, trying to make what you said right, or trying to convince the other person to see your point of view, there is a continuous fight energy. Or if you're like, I just need to get away from this person because I cannot handle it. I don't have to always say that I'm right or prove that you're right or whatever it is. So you flight, or you try and appease the person. You're like, oh, no, but honestly, I just meant it this way. And I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. What I really mean is it's this. If you're taking on that tone and that energy of constantly trying to make that person see it, but trying to be so polite about it, you're in your phone. And if just being in that experience with that person where you're constantly defending yourself just sends you into so much overwhelm and you feel physically numb and exhausted, then you've gone into a freeze response. It's just too much. You've checked out and you're trying to distract and you go to your phone and you just want to forget about it. Defending yourself in relationships is a red flag. It means that someone just isn't available for trying to see where you're at, trying to understand you, trying to even really, really, really learn how to do that. Because it's okay if we don't understand people. You know, we've all got different opinions. Everyone's got their own unique experience. That's fine. But if someone's not even willing to try and get to know you better, then it's time to walk away. It's simple as that. Number two, if you see that you are giving more than receiving. And I just want to highlight here, we don't give to receive. However, there is an energetic reciprocity that happens, and it's not always equal. Like, for example, me and a friend of mine last year, we both had really big ruptures in our life, huge. And I mean, luckily for both of us, we went through them at different times. So she went through it in a period of 2 months. I went through mine in a period of 2 months, but we were both able to really meet each other and support each other. Oh, I can see that you're in an experience and I'm going to support you. And it doesn't mean like if I'm in a bad experience, you support me, but that's just naturally how it happens with certain people in your life. With, you know, in relationship, one of the most important thing is that whoever is the most resourced, whoever has the most regulated nervous system is the one that leads in that current season, and a season can be a long period, and it can also be moment to moment, but it just means that there is an availability and there is energy and there is capacity there for someone to support the other. Now, if someone does have the capacity and chooses not to support, or chooses not even to have the conversation of like, hey, I know that you need support right now. I know that you have got a lot on your plate and I want to help you. And it doesn't mean there needs to be any big drama. It could just be like, someone's really, really busy and you can see that they really need your support. And if you've got the capacity and you're not giving it to them, but they're always giving to you when they've got the capacity, then fundamentally there is an incongruency in how the sharing of support and energy and loving and giving and even feedback, even giving beautiful feedback and really helping someone to learn more about themselves is so important. Reciprocity is one of my absolute non-negotiables when it comes to the relationships in my life. I need to be able to fundamentally see with my mind's eye that that person cares for me, makes an effort with me, is curious about what's going on in my life, asks me questions, that person has me in their thoughts and is making a genuine effort to want to be in my world and want to know what's going on in my world. I actually, at this point in my life, I don't need hundreds of people like that. I have a very, very small inner circle, and then I have a wider community, which is actually my clients and my colleagues. Like, that is my wider community, but it's still very, very tight and it's very in my world. And then I have a smaller pool of people that I really, really rely on in certain ways and in certain seasons of my life. I know that reciprocity is such a huge thing in my world, and I know that it is the thing that has really, really supported me in being able to fundamentally grow friendships, feel nurtured, feel connected, and also really want to give to these people in my life as well, because it feels so genuine. It feels like there is co-regulation and there is a meeting of each other and an understanding and a genuine love and a genuine care. And if I don't feel that, if I don't see that in my mind's eye, like logically, if I look at the time spent with someone and I see what the conversation is, or who is leading the conversation, or where the conversation is coming from, or even the energy around the conversation, because I can really feel grabby energy from people now, I will literally walk away. I'll know that it's time to walk away. I know that relationship, that friendship is up for renewal. And if I see certain things, I will just fundamentally know that it's expired. It's expired because I haven't fundamentally seen the effort, just the care or the love, and this is a really big thing, the fucking honesty. Preach to some honesty in relationships, saying the hard thing, asking for requests, asking for your needs to be met, and really seeing that they're doing that the other way around as well. Because I have no problem in asking for my needs to be met. I have no problem in asking for what I want. I have no problem in asking for someone to share some space for me if I'm going through a crunky time. I've got absolutely no problem in sharing if something doesn't feel good for me or if someone's crossed the boundary of mine. My requirement is that someone also does that for me. Someone shares with me if I have annoyed them, if I have done something that didn't feel good for them, if there's something that they need from me, or if there's something that they want from me, I am such a yes to it. And that for me is reciprocity, that authentic, raw, real communication and honesty. Even if it's edgy, even if it's scary, even if it's a little bit challenging, I love it because it's real. And that for me is what really sets the ground for a connected relationship and more love and more play and more fun and more joy, because there's nothing hanging around underneath. There's no resentment, or there's no questioning, or there's no second guessing. It just feels really clean energy. And then number 3, when there is more challenging times that outweigh the good times. This one's a little bit nuanced because we all go through really big challenges, and there will be times when relationships go through a season of really big challenge. But that's where you've got to really look at the bigger picture of the relationship. Because fundamentally, if, like, for example, me and my ex, our whole relationship quite frankly was challenging. The whole thing was toxic from start to finish. And there were pockets of really, really great moments and times, and there was love and there was connection, which is so wild to say, but if you've ever been in a twin flame trauma bonded relationship, you get what I mean, babe. If I really look back and I zone out at so interesting, there was way more challenges than there were great times, but the good times were so good, but the bad times were so bad. Have you ever been in one of those experiences where you can see like, oh, there's such a polarity between good and bad? And I try not to talk too much about good and bad, but for the listeners that are really trying to like look at what I'm saying, you know what I'm picking up now. What I'm putting down, you're picking it up. When I looked at that relationship, I was like, oh, like there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of noise, there was a lot of toxicity. There were some really sweet moments, and there was genuine love and there was genuine care. But why did it carry on for so long? Well, firstly and foremostly, I didn't have the nervous system that could fundamentally be so self-secure and so self-sourced that I could zone out and look out and be like, whoa, this isn't good for my system. And I absolutely can detach from this attachment and I'll be absolutely okay. My brain didn't have that online. I didn't have that security and I didn't have that inner resilience. But fundamentally, one thing that did really work in that relationship is we both shared a lot of the same values. We both wanted to move away and have a lifestyle abroad. We both wanted a freedom lifestyle, our own businesses, children. We both had fun and we found the same things funny. We both love food and we both love chilling out. There were a lot of things that we didn't align on, but mostly we did align. We had a lot of the shared vision, same values. There was just the toxicity of the energetics of inner security and being in our own work and the trauma bond, essentially that made it crumble. But that's why that lasted as long as it did, is because there was a future vision that was a shared future vision. But if you're in a relationship or you're in something right now, maybe it's a career, maybe it's a friendship like I shared with you before, where the challenges outweigh the good times, and you see that the more you spend in the energy with that person or that situation, that mostly it is something that doesn't feel good for you, or you walk away guessing yourself, questioning, wondering, speculating, and just not feeling good, then it's time to walk away. The way I see all of this is if you live your life from a full cup, if you are a woman that is self-sourcing, that is being with herself, that has time and space for herself, that is really, really, really loving on yourself in the most beautiful ways, inside of how you speak to yourself. I always see it as like, so this is the internal dynamics of me, and then the external is my standards and my actions and my relationships in the world, right? How I hold myself, how I hold my business, how I hold my clients, how I live, what I do with my life, who I spend my time with. All of those things are the external of the internal landscape that is Anna Christina. When you live life from a full cup, you tend to find that you have a lot of overflow, that you can actually give and you can actually be in relationships. What's really important is when you're in that state, when you're in that fullness, when you're in that magnetism, as they call it in the personal development world, it's really important that you could protect all of that. Because again, I shared there can be a lot of people that grabby energy that just take from you, and then you feel unmet in those relationships. It's really, really important that you hold a boundary of yourself. Be the woman that honors your energy and you choose who and what gets access to you. But fundamentally, if you're a woman that you know that your capacity is limited, if you know that you run on a low fuel, like you've not got a lot of energy, you tend to collapse a lot in your mind and you go into spirals and negative thinking, and you just don't fully meet yourself in a way in which you feel great each and every single day, and you jump out of bed and you feel all sparky and you feel like the world is your oyster, and it truly, truly is, FYI. If you don't fundamentally have that capacity, then you're going to find yourself entangled in relationships where you're trying to have them fulfill you. And most of the time, what I see women doing in that is, oh, I want them to meet me and approve me and accept me and love me and cherish me. And I want that person to be a yes to me. So what I'll do is, even though I've only got this much fuel, I'll give to them. And then you end up empty. What is even more challenging is that You've given your last drops to them and they didn't give you anything back. And then you get resentful. And then they become the villain of your story and you're the victim. But the truth is that the resentment is actually on you because you gave them your last drops. So don't be that woman. Don't be the woman that gives everything and expects breadcrumbs in return, or expects nothing in return, assuming that by giving to them and having them like you will satiate the internal emptiness that you're currently experiencing, because it won't. It will continue to leak and you'll continue to need to give to other people, and you'll never be able to get what you're looking for, because what you're looking for is to give to yourself. And I know that can be really challenging in a world where, as women, we're so conditioned to constantly be giving to other people and worrying about them and questioning what they think about us. And it's very noisy, which makes it hard to walk away, because we fundamentally believe that we need these people to feel better about ourselves because we have an attachment. And attachment's fine, we're all human. But the point is that we become so attached and the energetic cord is so strong that we essentially outsource our power of everything that we're supposed to think and feel, and like how we should ultimately be thinking about ourselves. We outsource it to the opinions of other people and how they treat us, and then how they treat us and how they think about us and what they ultimately feel about us becomes more important than what we think about ourselves. And this is so nuanced and it's so tricky. But my question to you is like, what would it look like? Like, and I want you to imagine this. I want you to give yourself a few moments to just imagine yourself walking through your life, your day-to-day life, nothing grand just happening. What would it look like if you were the woman that didn't dictate how you felt about yourself based on how the world is perceiving and receiving you? That you were just that woman that was so alive, so full, so in love with yourself, that got to be enough. And that was enough. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I really, really loved sharing this with you. I think it's such a beautiful conversation. A woman that is full in love with herself, and from that energy, she gets to do what she wants, and she gets to create what she wants, and she gets to really, really be intentional about who is in her world. And if you enjoyed it, I would love a 5-star review, and hit subscribe if you would love more of these episodes.